Are you ready to learn what red flags keep an eye out for when looking for love?
Then we got you covered. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the podcast where we unpack reality TV and call out the bullshit.
So that you show up confidently while dating and in relationships. Welcome to Ditch the Script. Oh my God.
I love it. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I have the giggles now.
I'm glad you have the gig. The gigs are a great place to be. It's great energy.
Definitely a good place to start.
Yes.
I'm good. It's been raining here in South Florida for like a couple days. And it's sunny and beautiful. And I am so sorry because to all of our friends and listeners in the north, it's fucking cold right now, dude.
Oh, yeah, for Florida.
No. Florida is beautiful. Florida is beautiful. The north.
Those
who are in the north are frigid. It's like
suffering.
It was like 5 degrees, 5 whole degrees yesterday.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
I couldn't do it.
No. And I could, but I'm choosing not to.
Okay, I have something more fun to talk about.
Okay. Ooh, let's get into it.
I'm trying to learn how to style my hair. This is my attempt. And
well, tell us what you did.
Well, I'm trying to do like a beachy wave look, and I don't have a curling iron. So when I went and got my hair cut this weekend, I asked her to teach me how to do it, and she used a curling iron, brushed it out. Yeah, whatever. If you're an advanced hair person and you actually style your hair from day to day, you probably have all the tricks. Alex
I don't.
Is a tomboy, and like this is new territory for me. I'm trying to embrace femininity in new ways. So this is one of the ways that I'm kind of playing with. And so today I tried to recreate it with my straightener because I don't have a curling iron yet. And so I did okay for my first attempt, like I sectioned my hair, and I need a hairspray. Like it's kind of falling out, but whatever. It was a good attempt.
I think you look gorgeous. You
Thanks,
do.
Girl.
Your hair looks great. To be totally honest, as friends should be when appropriate, I don't know if I totally noticed a difference because you have great hair. You have great hair. So the cut, you have a cut that really works for you. And so therefore, I just accepted that this was just how your hair looked today, and it looks fabulous. And the good news about this, in addition to that compliment, is that you've done some work to your hair to like express. It's like a self-care act, right? You were like, let me
100%.
do this thing. Let me like show myself a little bit of love. And that's really important. But what you've also achieved is this like no frills look.
It is what it is. It needs some texture spray. I'm going to go get like a salt spray.
Yeah, that's cool. That sounds like a good idea. Sounds lovely.
Look, I'm learning. And I think that like for me, I used to be so back in the day. I used to be super judgmental and reject my femininity because of a million reasons, which we don't need to unpack today. But as part of my healing journey, this is something that I'm slowly stepping into, is like learning how to, not necessarily put the pressure on myself to style my hair every day, because I'm just not going to be that kind of girl. Like that's just not my priority in life. But having the option, and like you said, like just a way to love on myself and like play, like it's a form of play for me. And so we'll see. And what was really fun about this experience, more so because clearly like it's not the best. Like I have work to do, and if anyone has tips and you're listening to this, you hit me up, whether that's a product or whatever.
What would help people? Tell them, like, how would you describe your type of hair?
It's like the beachy wavy look, like nothing. I don't want a curl.
No.
What?
Yes, that is helpful, what you're trying to achieve. But what kind of hair are you starting with?
Oh, yeah. I have very bone straight hair. Like I usually get out of the shower and just let it air dry, and it's fine.
Really straight.
Very straight. It's kind of heavy. But
because
it is what it is.
The hair itself is thick, or because you have a lot of it?
I think because I have a lot of it, but my hair isn't super fine, actually. Good question.
So you have medium thickness hair and a lot of it. I can hear people listening being like, girl, I do not fucking feel bad for you. Go on with your badass self with that hair.
Yeah. But so now, like, what I feel was a huge testament to my growth is as I'm curling this hair this morning, I didn't get frustrated at myself for it not being perfect because my perfectionist self is like that. I think that's like comes from my dancing days too, of like, here's the combination, do it. And it's like, if it's not perfect the first time, it's like all this self-loathing would come like, I could have done that turn better. I could have done whatever, you know?
Right.
And that will show up with me a lot, even in things like doing my hair. But today that didn't happen. Instead, it was like, this is an experiment. This is fun. We're going to see what happens. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it was really enjoyable in a way, honestly, even though it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to yet. But, you know, that's what learning is it's not going to be perfect the first time. So,
and it's honestly
self-acceptance.
It's less important about like it turning out looking like you had a hair and makeup team with you this morning.
Yeah.
Like if there's a takeaway here for anyone that's listening, it's like, it is nice to do something kind for yourself. And if you can bring that kindness into rituals, into your daily life, it's a really great way to build your self-esteem and your sense of self-worth just by showing yourself a little bit of love. Disclaimer, it's important to note that it is not important that the rituals that we do for ourselves are fully focused and geared towards matching some expectation of femininity or beauty. That is not the goal here. You just so happen to have chosen a practice, a self-care tool that shows you a little love back, but is not necessarily geared towards, let me be the prettiest, most beautiful version of myself.
No.
There's a difference in that, right?
Yeah. I save those looks for nights out.
You're like, I will meet the beauty standard for a purpose.
Yeah, like if I want to, if that's the vibe I'm feeling, 100%, your girl can clean up. Like I have confidence there.
Yeah.
It's just like when it comes to day to day, like I really am. My default is like sweatpants, no makeup, air dried hair. And that's fine. Like I love that and I accept that about myself. But when it comes to personal growth and like me tapping into my feminine energy more, like this is something I want to play with. And it took me a while to get there. I'm not going to lie. It took me years to get there because like I said before, I used to be super, like I would reject feminine energy when it came to wanting to do your makeup or do your hair. Like I used to think that was something that, only influencers did. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be one of those girls. Right. So judgy. And that really was just holding up a mirror to me and my uncomfortableness or discomfort with feminine energy in that way. So after years of, me doing what I preach on social media, I finally was like, oh, I actually genuinely want to learn and get curious about these locks that grow out of my scalp and like, let's see what we can do with them. And it's been interesting, and it's been fun, and we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah. When I choose to turn up the femininity is sort of similarly like nights out. But if I know that I am expected to be in the presence of someone that I am attracted to, your girl's going in on the loop.
Yeah.
I'm like, and here's the thing. This is something that I've struggled to sort of grapple with because for a long period of my life, I feel really similarly where I like really rejected a lot of femininity and it went from not feeling very much like me to me then trying on femininity in sort of like a cosplay type of way because it was like, this is what I think that I'm supposed to do to get the kind of attention that I'm desperately seeking. And then, did that hit home?
Yeah.
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 And then that transition to how do I express and define femininity that feels closely aligned with who I am exactly. Yes. But now, so I still straddle this line of like when I'm let's say getting ready for a date. Now there's getting ready for a date, and then there's getting ready for a date that you want to be on. And when I'm getting ready for a date that I want to be on, I used to think like I should just be able to dress how I want to dress. And like, if that tends to have some androgynous tones to it, like, so be it. That's who I am. I have learned that while that is okay, and if that's what I'm feeling that day, fucking full force, go for it.
Yeah.
But there is something to being like, listen, if you're trying to get a specific kind of reaction out of this person, you know what you can do to turn it up. And if that brings you joy and that like gets you excited and it sort of puts you in that like that mindset, that like flirty, fun, like energetic mindset that you do want to have on your side before going on a date so that you can battle some of the challenging parts that come with going out there, like nerves, feeling not good enough, feeling like you're like on the precipice of rejection, like then turn it up, lean into it, even if it feels like it fits this societal definition of femininity.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's like, and I talk about this with work, like masculine, feminine energies, but it's all about, like you said before, making it yours instead of going after what society defines as feminine energy. So like for me, the ways I usually tap into feminine energy is more of like pulling cards, meditating, free movement, getting creative, like paint by numbers and things like that. And those are all, that's still feminine energy. I can do that shit in my sweatpants with my hair in a bun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, but it's like, you know, when it comes to, you know, putting makeup on or doing your hair, I completely agree. Like, it's about your energy and what you want to present. And by the way, ladies, it ain't going to be the same day to day because we have a lot of hormones with our menstrual cycles. So just throwing that out there, like, don't be hard on yourself. If you feel like doing your hair one day, great. And if you don't, you don't. And that doesn't define who you are or your value.
No, I tend to do my hair based on the status of its cleanly level. And that's me being nice in avoiding saying my hair just gets dirtier as the days progress and honestly a little bit smelly. And therefore the way that I style it is dependent on masking and protecting everyone else from that. You're welcome.
Love it.
World.
Yeah. But I feel that because guess what? Me too. And guess what? People listening, they're probably like, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on day 4.5 right now.
Nice.
Okay. We have a Married at First Sight maths episode to break down.
Yeah. And apparently an interpretive dance I just did there.
Yeah. And an interpretive dance for us all to tap into and let your bodies
more
move.
Feminine energy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited to talk about this episode. How do you feel?
Oh my God. Let me get my notes out. You guys know the notes.
Your girls got notes.
Serious. Yeah. You know, Married at First Sight is such a fascinating show, and the types of people it brings in is so fascinating. So yeah, I'm with you. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Generally, what we get an opportunity to see here is where we left off was Mark and Lindsay's wedding / introduction to each other. So we're going to wrap that up. But what we also get to see is the weddings and introductions of the rest of our couples, except for Steve and Noi. We sort of get like the climax of them about to meet. And then that's where we're cliffhung. So let's back it up. Let's wrap up our experience of getting to know Mark and Lindsay in this setting.
Yes. So, just to recap, like last week when we were talking about this couple, I personally feel that it's going to be very interesting to watch. I feel like it might implode on itself only because of some of the wounds that Lindsay's harboring from her mom. Yeah. But honestly, watching them, it was just, in this episode, it was really funny to see the contrast, because now we're really starting to see Mark get hesitant. And Lindsay was sharing about, I applied on Valentine's Day, and she does feel like Lindsay does feel like Mark is a genuinely kind person. So she's into him and she's excited to see where it goes.
Right.
But the moment that stood out to me, Bri, I actually got a little emotional during this. We were watching them take their photos together.
Yeah.
And Mark mentions how his mom isn't there.
Yeah.
And Lindsay completely did a 180. And I cried, because I was like, oh my God, this girl, like she has such a soft, nurturing heart under all of these layers of all the things we were kind of calling out last week. But when Mark shares, like, yeah, my mom's not here, she looked at him and her whole face and tone softened. She's like, oh, is that a tough situation?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it is. And she's like, I have a tough situation with my mom.
Yeah.
Too. And like that was like the most beautiful moment they've shared. And like the amount of almost sparks that you saw fly, or that connection that you kind of saw start to solidify happened in that beautiful moment of empathy. Yeah. So I'm just really interested to see where this goes, because if Lindsay's really committed and Mark's really committed and they are eager about pulling in the professionals for their help, this could really work.
Right.
It could.
Right. Being able to express each other's vulnerability enough to see that they have some of these wounds in common, and that they could maybe support each other in supporting themselves, in learning how to, I don't know, create different romantic and family relationships that the two of them are definitely seeking. I noticed that same moment. I thought that was similar to you. That felt like the strongest, most sensitive moment that they shared up until that point. What stood out to me, because their connection so far has been so awkward and so like rickety. Yeah, I'm going to call it rickety, like sort of like a grocery cart with like one bum wheel.
So true.
I don't know why that image speaks to me when it comes to them, but it really just like, they're trying to get off the ground, they're trying to roll, and they're getting in their own ways. I can see that Mark is trying to be open-minded. Something that stuck out to me is that he's doing this thing that you and I talk about a lot. That tends to be a common mistake when you are dating and desperately seeking a partner that you've always wanted, and the person that you meet isn't that person, but you are choosing to find the very, quote, best qualities in them, and you fill in the gaps of what you don't know with what the potential could be. And that's what we talk about. That's what we talk about when we're talking about falling in love with the potential of someone instead of actually who's in front of you. And we see him do that when he's having like a private interview with the producers, and he's talking about how I am like, I can see that she's this, and I can see that I forget exactly what he's noting about her in this moment, but you see him talk a lot about maybe this is someone who can help me have a lot of fun in my life. Maybe this is someone who can help shake up my routine. So he's already choosing to romanticize that this could be a really good fit for him, because honestly, he just got married to the woman. So maybe for him, he's like, what choice do I have? But I just wanted to point that out, because we have to be aware that we do that, and it doesn't exactly always serve us.
Yeah. And I do feel like, even though he can see like she has a large personality and like, all of that, she's very comfortable taking up space, energetically and like being the life of the party. Yes, I do agree with you. I do feel like he doesn't feel like he has an option other than to kind of get on board because of the dynamic of the show, and they just got married and he doesn't know her well. He doesn't feel comfortable necessarily labeling these as like, ooh, this is a yellow flag. Like, I'm interested to see, you know, is this nervous energy or what's that about, you know, because
Right.
I do feel like part of it is. And when she softened,
Definitely.
I was like, whoa, there's a lot more depth there that we haven't seen to Lindsay yet.
Because she's been on the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think similar to kind of what you said last week, as far as like with her sexual humor, and that tends to be like what she leans on in a moment of like not knowing what to do or say and respond to. I do feel that it's her way of coping to, if I have attention, if I make people laugh, then I'm going to be loved. I'm going to be adored. And we'll see how that shifts when they're alone. They can kind of calm down. They get to spend more time together, and we'll see what other maybe surprises Lindsay has once that nervousness and that need to kind of impress so quickly dies down.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Mark romanticizing some of the things that are concerned, you can kind of see himself trying to talk him out of him being concerned in that moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree that if this was a normal dating circumstance, I would be like, don't do that to yourself.
Right.
But I do at the same time can absolutely put myself in his position and say he's doing that because he doesn't feel he has an option. He's like, I got this ring on my finger.
Law is intact.
Yep. We signed a paper.
Yeah. We signed, we spoke, we kissed, we solidified. Okay.
Locked it down.
There's something else that stuck out in their wedding that felt like a big red flag. That was just, they were an example of this. This is more of a red flag that we do in dating, period.
Yes.
Lindsay asks Mark, well, this is while they're dancing. They're sharing their first like dance as a married couple. Lindsay asked Mark, do you like country music? And he pauses and says, what do you think? Do you? And she goes, can't stand it. And he's like, nah, me neither. Now, we don't know. You caught this. I can tell by your face that this also stuck out to you. We don't know if he does or does not like country music, but what I can tell you is this is very likely a clear example of him deferring to her because he desperately does not want to admit to liking something that she maybe doesn't like. And then what's going to happen if that's true?
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you brought this up because this is also, I know I touched on this briefly last week. This is a sign of, again, an anxious attachment style is becoming what I like to call the professional chameleon, where because it's a relatable term, right? You change your likes and dislikes depending on the environment you're in. And I know it so well because I used to be the number one. Yes.
I'm number two. If you're number one, I'm number two.
Yes,
or I was.
Thing one, thing two, baby. Yeah. So, yes. And it's like this. So a way to see if you can, I'm tripping over my words because I'm so excited. A way to see if you do this. And the reason it was so easy to spot is because you can tell by the way she asked the question, she didn't like country music, right? She was like, do you like country music? And her brows furrowed and she got really serious and the energy shifted. Whereas if she was like, do you like country music? With her eyes big and like a smile, you could tell. And so those of us that have in, again, what I like to call our default setting, an anxious attachment style, when we have, and this is scientifically proven, we have a larger intuitive response. Like we can pick up on energies more. We are more sensitive to energies. And
that was your survival
That was
situation.
your survivor. Yep, exactly. You're absolutely right. So this is what's fascinating is like, she asked the question and you can see Mark's brain almost short circuit because he's like, oh, fuck, I do like
What's
it.
the right
but
answer here?
Exactly. And so in his way to buy time, he panics, asks the question back, what do you think about it? And when she responds, he then feels comfortable matching her response.
Yeah.
And so it is again, I feel that Mark, and I got this this idea or sensation or whatever feeling last week watching him, is he's so eager to find a wife and to find someone to be with and a companion that he's going to start this relationship doing just that, being a chameleon and what's the word? Conceding to Lindsay's likes and preferences and ideas. But let me tell you, that's going to get old real quick for him. And so the power struggle, like I said last week, that these two are going to eventually have to navigate is going to be what makes or breaks their relationship.
Yeah, totally. So, and if you're going to start your relationship by just conceding to your partner's likes and dislikes, what happens when you all actually get to know each other better and build a life together? What are you going to keep that up? Just pretend, just like listen to country music in a dark closet because you love it so much and just pretend that you don't? Like, it's not sustainable. And what securely attached relationships will show you is that it can tolerate healthy discourse. It can tolerate like your relationship can survive if you don't agree on everything. And honestly, I would argue that some of the strongest relationships that I've ever come to witness in my world have included people who don't agree on everything. And they learn from each other because of it. And they admire each other because of it.
Yes. Yeah. And they're more open-minded and they release the need to control or agree on everything. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. Mm-hmm. You know, like they think if this is my person, we need to agree on everything. And the answer is no, you don't, you know, and nor will you. Yeah. At some point, you're not going to agree, whether that's on an ice cream flavor or, you know, whether it's a political standing. Like I have a girlfriend who doesn't even share the same political party. Now, would that be me? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. Because everyone has different thresholds for what they can and cannot tolerate, right? Yeah. So, I'm just like throwing it out there that get that out of your mind if you think you're going to find someone who agrees and likes everything that you love and there is no discourse, because that ain't going to happen. Yep.
Be yourself, like what you like, don't like what you don't like, and own that. And this I feel like is modeled in the next relationship that we see and get to know about their wedding, which is Jasmina and Michael, whom we love. We love. Even before you and I get into this, I already know that we love these two in a deep and meaningful way. The reason why I segue with this relationship, also that this episode was clearly edited to sort of like show, compare and contrast Jasmine and Michael's connection versus Mark and Lindsay's. It doesn't necessarily say, okay, this relationship is going to be successful and this one's not. It just shows the difference in like what work may need to be done. And also that two long-term connections, long-term relationships can start at different paces. But listen, if I had to pick between the two, I'd rather be in the Jasmina and Michael camp because their chemistry was off the charts. Dude.
They're so cute. I had a good feeling about these two. I'm so happy for them. Although I will say and we'll get to it in a second, but what Jasmina says, I was like, I knew it. But we'll get there in a minute. I love them. I want to hang out with them. Like they just seem so cool, calm and collected and self-aware and communicative and accepting. So the contrast that you're alluding to as far as like healthy discourse and not being on the same page is, you know, Michael doesn't watch any TV or movies really. And Jasmina, you know, to quote her, she's like, you don't like Marvel? Yeah. She likes to watch her TV and her movies. Yeah. So, so right off the bat, they found a difference, but they aren't allowing that difference to affect the way they feel about each other or the way that they're talking right now. Like they're not making it an issue. No, they're just using it as a tool to get to know each other better. And how are you going to get to know each other if you're conceding
to the other person's
Yes.
likes. Right?
You're not.
Right.
You're not.
Yeah. Also,
what were some of your big ones?
As far as like green flags for these two,
Like, what did you just notice about their interaction?
There's honestly so much that was unsaid that in their nonverbal body language that displayed that the two of them emotionally felt in the same place at the same time in a really high intensity of a moment. Like, I think that there was also a really interesting use of humor in their experience. Yeah. So like, obviously when we lead into their wedding, Jasmina is off the charts. Like, she is so emotional. She's so nervous. She's exactly how I would feel. I remember texting some of my friends about this show because, like I said, I've never watched this show before. Someone picking a partner for me to marry is my worst nightmare. I've actually had a dream where I was like, I had everyone invited to a wedding, my wedding, and there was no groom. And I don't know who the groom was supposed to be, but I was like, it's the most like emotionally charged dream that I think that I've ever had, because something about it makes me feel so out of control. I think that I would feel the way that Jasmina would feel, which is like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I about to do? What did I sign up for? This is real.
Yeah.
And then you have Michael, who's just like, shit, this is it. You know, like, I'm about to walk into everything that I want, but I don't even know if I'm going to get everything that I want. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do I do? So, and then when you see them, the first thing that we notice that editing also helps us notice is that Michael is enamored with like Jasmina's beauty. And it's not even that she's just like gorgeous and that like she'd be gorgeous in any setting, in any outfit, like in anything. Like, she immediately meets his level of attraction. And you can see that in his face. And then when she shows up and she gets there, obviously tension is so high because there's so many nerves, and like everything that is contributing to this moment is very intense. And she disarms the entire situation with a little bit of humor, like appropriate humor. And you can see that the two of them sort of relax into each other and then meet each other in the middle and realize, we don't know what the fuck is going on, but we happen to be in this together.
Yeah. It was beautiful to watch.
It was like magic, dude. It was like watching magic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what makes me, okay, side note to all this entire episode or show. I sometimes wonder, and this, I'm going to admit something that if it were to be the truth would be really messed up. But I sometimes wonder, because they have an amazing match with Jasmina and Michael, and then you throw two people like Mark and Lindsay together. And I'm just like, do you do that on purpose so that the show has drama? Because if every couple they set up was like Jasmina and Michael, and also what I'm predicting to be a very similar situation with Steve and Noi, like, it wouldn't be dramatic. It would be like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Look at these people fall in love. Cool. When, let's be real, guys, humans, the reason these shows are even a thing is because we love the drama, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So I do sometimes wonder, like, is that a thing?
I don't know. I listen, that would be sort of like a different kind of evil to like put people together and have them like join in a marital contract for the sake of good television. I don't know. I mean, I really do think that I want to believe that they intentionally paired Mark and Lindsay together. And listen, Mark applied to the show twice. So he was really trying to get on the show.
Yeah, that's so true.
But to your point, what we notice is likely amplified by how they edit it as well. Like, and by that, I mean, they pair these two together in the same viewing experience. Like, you're literally watching scenes from Mark and Lindsay's wedding to scenes from Jasmina and Michael's wedding, back to Mark and Lindsay, back to Jasmina and Michael. So, you know, at that point, listen, the four of those people were just doing it for us. Everything that we saw.
But yeah, I really adored, again, I made a note on the sense of humor, you know, like, especially when they sat down to drink champagne together afterwards, and he immediately took a sip of his without choosing her, and she was like, that's real crazy. Like, you're just gonna, and he laughed immediately, refilled his glass. It was like, my bad, you know?
Yeah,
and
he
I
fucked
thought
up.
yeah, but I loved seeing that, because she had a beautiful way of calling him out in like a funny yet still like, okay, not cool.
Yeah.
And he was humbled, where he, instead of being like, I'm sorry, he didn't even try and defend what he did. He was like, my bad, you're right, you're my wifey, let's do this the right
Yeah,
way, you know?
totally.
And like got like huffed too, if you will, to like get that going for her. And if they maintain that in their relationship, especially during, you know, while they're getting to know it, it's secret sauce. And it is a natural connection and chemistry that they have, that kind of flow. So I'm really excited to see where they go.
Yeah,
you know? And
they're
then
a feel-good couple.
They are. And I also loved how later, when we were watching them take pictures, she made the joke. She's like, do you see he's trying to touch my butt? Like,
Yeah.
It was cute, but also I interpreted this as also a way of kind of giving him permission, because she was like playful about it, you know? And she was like, you see he's trying to touch my butt?
Yeah, right.
You know, so I like them, and I am really excited to see what happens.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you brought up the pictures, because the pictures alone showed so much more connection than the pictures that we were getting from Mark and Lindsay. Mark and Lindsay were very much like prom date. Like, yes, we barely even talk, but I did ask you out prom moment.
Yes, exactly. Such a good analogy. I love that. It felt a little stilted. It felt a little like, okay, we have to take photos. Right. Where when Michael, and he even said this at one point, he's like, it feels right. She doesn't feel like a stranger to me. And he loves her smile. And what you're describing and the energy between the two is the comfortability that Michael and Jasmina share with one another already, versus the nervous energy and the angst that we're picking up on with Mark and Lindsay. It's palpable.
Palpable, baby. Love that word. Love that description. I feel the same way. I'm excited to see where they go. Okay.
Katina and Elonjuan.
Katina and Elonjuan. There are some really specific moments in their connection that is challenging. Honestly, okay, so with this couple, we also get the full scope of the buildup, where the two of them individually with their families or important people in their lives are like preparing for the wedding, getting ready for the wedding. Something that really stood out to me is Elonjuan's dad's concern about Elonjuan's very high expectations for what he is looking for in a woman. He was like, he is expecting the absolute most. And while it's not necessarily a horrible thing to just expect, or expect is the wrong thing, to be seeking like a high interest partner for you, that's got a lot of qualities that you're looking for, that's okay. But to expect it and almost demand it and be turned off and close your mind to anything that just doesn't fit those priorities is where you put yourself, especially in a situation like this, where you only get one shot, you get one person, you're not dating a bunch of people. You really put your foot in your mouth with that.
Yeah. I agree. I'm trying to see if I have any specific notes on what was said. Yeah, I can say this. When they were showing them getting ready and kind of having conversations with either her with her bridesmaids, him with his groomsmen, around what your expectations are and things like that. Something that was said on Katina's end that kind of made me like, ooh, okay, was, you know, I want someone who will always be committed to making me happy because I'm always going to make them happy. And I'm like, what are you going to do the day that that doesn't happen? Because let me tell you, there's going to come a day where you hurt each other's feelings or, you know, whatever. Like, it's just, that's how relationships are.
Yeah.
And so that was concerning. And yes, going back to what Elonjuan said. So what I wrote that really kind of freaked me out was how him and all of his friends talk about the Isaac persona that Elonjuan has. Like, it's a known entity and they keep bringing it up. Like, are you sure Isaac's done with his days? Are you sure there's no more Isaac? And Isaac is Elonjuan's middle name. So he very much has like compartmentalized
Different
these two
personality.
identities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
And
want
to
to catch,
me-
I want to do a quick pause just to catch up
Yeah.
the audience, just to recap. So Olajuwon names that he used to, when he was partying, he would go under the alias of Isaac, and Isaac, behaving like Isaac, partying like Isaac, gave him all of this perceived permission to just do whatever he wanted to do with women, without any sense of consequences. So that's what he's
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah. So and again, just to reiterate, it's not just the fact that Elonjuan is like, okay, my Isaac days are behind me. It's every person in the room knows of this and is concerned about it. And that's kind of where, if I was going to say like red flaggy, like that's what's nervous to me, because if his family and friends know that that was so ingrained in him for so long and they're still concerned about it on his wedding day, like I'm just, that's it. That's all I'm going to say is like, that's something to keep an eye on and like for us to pay attention to moving forward. Now, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think that it's hard to imagine and expect that someone just says, Isaac's days are behind me, I'm throwing them away. And then to just feel like they mentally tie a bow around that period of your life and it's no longer relevant. You have to imagine there's a part of you that lived in that persona as well. So there's got to be a part of you that stays with you. That's what I'm thinking of when you're talking about that, which is like, we can't just like seal this envelope and like send it in the mail and send it away from us. Like, we have to be cognizant that like this may be something that you need to continue to take care of.
Yes. Yes, because what Isaac experienced with his relationships and like he calls himself a cheater, so I feel very comfortable if he's going to self-identify that way. Like, you know, his Isaac persona was, and he was very much upfront about owning that about him. But let me be very clear here. When someone has a pattern of being that way, you know, and then there's a lot of emotions and the thrill and the high of that kind of energy and that go, go, go and meeting new people that you will not get in a committed marriage, right? You won't. And so that's why I'm a little concerned is like, I think this is going to be really exciting for him in the beginning, but I think the stability and the consistency and the normalness of what a true, like a healthy marriage is not going to be as thrilling to him as his Isaac days. So I just don't know if he's ready for that. I worry he'll be like, this is boring and like be tempted, you know, that's where I'm coming from.
It's entirely possible, especially once like,
Yeah.
I mean, like they're going to be on this journey for a little while where they're cohabitating and making decisions about their life and whatever. But eventually the producers are going to be away and the attention will no longer be on them to this degree. So what happens when you are no longer stimulated in the same ways? For sure.
Yeah, totally. And then we get to the wedding, and I do want to bring up something that happened in the vows.
Okay, set the scene. Give it to us.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I've been dying to talk about this freaking wedding because it is interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So like, why don't you just tell me, let's start with your thoughts and feelings, and then I'll get to what I want to call out about the vows, because I'm sure you have a note on it too.
Not specifically what was said in the vows. So I'm interested to hear your take, but
Okay.
energy wise, Katina, Katina shows up and she's gorgeous. Like
Beautiful.
Katina looks so beautiful, and Elonjuan is smitten from the get-go. And he is behaving in a way of someone who is smitten. You can
puppy
just
dog.
Yeah, he's puppy dogging. It's the thing that I'm getting from him actually feels like what the physical representation of someone who like frequently love bombs looks and acts like.
Oh my God. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Why do we feel that
love
way?
That.
Why do we feel that way? Can you riddle that?
Because it was too much too fast. And if you pay attention, it was all around her looks. Like he just kept like, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. And it's like, okay, bro, like pump the brakes now. I do think there's a difference between intentional, malicious love bombing and love bombing because of emotional immaturity and a lack of awareness.
And we think it's the latter on this one, because he is just going a mile a minute, and because he's so infatuated with her physically to start, you can see the mental gymnastics going on in his brain. He's like, this is what my life is going to look like with this person. And these are all the things, and anything that is possibly wrong about her, I am ready to forgive it because she is gorgeous and I love her. And this is my woman and this is my wifey and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Goes on and on. So someone in Katina's position here is already being put on a pedestal, which is going to make it very challenging for her to be a human being that makes mistakes and has errors, because he is going to constantly put her in this expectation box that if she doesn't measure up to, it's going to be the death of them.
Yep. Yes. So getting to the point that I want to make about the vows is that they obviously, if you're watching the show with us, they both write their own vows. But before that happens, the priest or whoever, minister, officiator person, they read from the other person's family what they want the new spouse to know about them. Right. So in this example, I don't even know what his title is. So for the sake of like being inclusive and not labeling anything, I'm just going to call him the officiant. Is that what the name is of the person who does vows? The officiant. The officiant. That guy. Okay. he was reading to Katina what Elonjuan's family and friends want her to know about him. Right. And the dinner cooking thing came up. Okay. Yep. And they very much say, you know, he's looking forward to having you cook a meal or something like that, you know, we hope you learn how to cook, or at least you're a fast learner, is what they say. Yeah. And she immediately was like, nope.
Yeah. And her whole family, like her whole side of the wedding, is just sort of giggling and laughing, because what's not being said here, but is being communicated, is that she does not cook.
She don't cook. Yeah. She don't cook.
We have to remember that in our earliest introduction of Elonjuan, when we started to get familiar with his very high list of demands for his next wife, that was number one. He was like, I need my wife to be able to come home and like, I want a hot meal ready, like on some real old school gender norm patriarchal bullshit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish now, he had a sound.
Boom. And now he has this wife, this full wife that he just married, that is now has made it clear, and her family has communicated that she doesn't cook. But you see him compromise on that in this moment.
Yes. So this is what I want to say, is that he goes, we'll figure it out together. We'll figure it out together. And he starts to reassure her, which I'm like, my notes, and I don't even need to look at them, because I remember hitting my thumbs real hard on my keypad, was you better stick to that. Elonjuan is, you better figure it out together, because that is what should happen. You know, it shouldn't be, and this goes for any check in the box. Like, for example, on the roles being reversed, a lot of women are like, I want my manly partner to be able to fix everything around the house. I don't want to have to call a plumber. I don't want to have to do that. But having that as an expectation or a demand, where if they are without that skill set, they are not good enough for you. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. That's interesting that your perspective on his saying, that's fine, we'll figure it together. Your instinct was they are going to figure this out together. My instinct in interpreting that was he's going to coach her until she is doing this on her own for him.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not necessarily saying I take him at his word. I'm saying you better stick to that because I don't trust that he's going to stick to that.
Gotcha.
Is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, yeah, you better. That's in your vows. You're at the altar. You best.
And people might have a difference of opinions on this, and I'm totally comfortable with that. But to me, the two of you acknowledging that one of you doesn't cook, the one that in your perspective, Elonjuan, is expected to provide all meals for this household. I want to throw up.
I know.
What that looks like, working on it together in my book, in my world, what that looks like is sharing the responsibility of cooking fucking meals and providing meals for your fucking I listen, I'd have to do an entirely different podcast on this exact feeling. So I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to shut it down.
No, because it's shared. It is shared. Me too. You know, like Jordan will cook me breakfast on the days where I'm too tired to make dinner. I'll literally be like, can you do that for me tonight? And he'll say yes, you know.
Yep.
Am I typically the one that does it? Yes. But
sure as shit not the expectation.
It's not the expectation, and I am not balked at or condescended or thrown, you know, mean words and sayings because I'm done running my business for the day and I'm too tired to stand over a stove for the next 30 to 45 minutes.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, so he's capable, you know, and if I ask, he says yes. And if he's too tired to cook, guess what? DoorDash is a thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's how we operate in our relationship. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people have these expectations of a skill set being required of the opposite gender because of just the gender that they have, like that they are or identify as. And it's like, no. Because let me tell you, guess who snaked our shower drain the other day? Me. Okay. So, and that's okay. Nor do I ever demand or expect Jordan to be the one that handles all of that. You know, we shared the load.
I'm dying because as we're like sitting and talking about these gender norms, like obviously in the background is my kitchen. I can see my Metamucil standing tall and proud. Listen, hot girls have tummy issues. Hot girls need to take in extra fiber. Okay.
Yes, we do.
I will not apologize for it. Anyway, I just had to point that out. Something that I did want to name that actually was a green flag for me in this whole experience, which thank fucking God, because I was getting, and honestly, the wedding gets worse. The two of them it gets worse. But this little light of mine that I'm holding on to is, so in that same moment that you're talking about where the officiant is, passing on a message from the partner's families to the new partner. And they're talking about Katina and they say, and I quote, an opinionated woman can be blunt sometimes, but she's working on it. And then Elonjuan, without missing a beat, he goes, you don't need to. And I really love that. That softened things for me. I actually watched it back a couple times because it made me feel good because, first of all, I do reject this call to action for women to like soften their bluntedness or their communication styles, because of course it's like, and especially this is superimposed at like Black women. It's like if they are they're advocating for themselves, it's misconstrued as like anger and aggression. And women generally get this stereotype that speaking on our feelings or saying what we want or saying what we need is we are bitches. So I really reject that like need to soften it for what everyone else's fucking comfort. Get over yourself. So hearing Elonjuan just fully take that, and he like in that moment reassured, he was like, you don't need to do that. And you could see on her face, she was just, that was validating. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I am tooting that horn with you because this is actually, it's so funny that you brought that up, Bri, because I've been trying to figure out how to make a piece of content around that for a while, like a couple weeks around, are you being a bitch, or are you just trying to communicate your feelings and opinions? Because as you say, women have been painted for so long to be these prim and proper, like we don't speak unless spoken to, and we don't, advocate for ourselves. We stay in our lane and blah, 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 and all that horse shit. And it's not, I feel like a child saying this, but it's true. It's not fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Equality means all genders can freaking admit what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, what their opinions and perspectives are. And we should be accepted by one another for it, instead of labeling someone as a bitch because they aren't staying in their lane according to what that looks like to you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So I'm glad you said that. And I feel like it's really relevant because a lot of women are being shamed for speaking up, being told that they're being inappropriate or bitchy or demanding or too direct. And it's like, are we though?
We're not. We're not.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me wrong. We're not without work and reflection and accountability and changing some of our behaviors so that it serves not only us primarily, but the people around us. But likely not.
Yeah.
It's not likely it.
I agree. Yeah. There's a way to communicate. There's a way to go about it, but that doesn't mean that you keep your mouth shut or don't share. Yeah.
And okay, so let's talk a little bit about what
post-wedding.
Yeah, let's talk about Katina and Elonjuan's connection with each other individually. First of all, just visually, the two of them are standing. They need to sit down. Katina is holding a bouquet that is like 6 times the normal size of a regular bouquet.
Pounds.
Yeah. And I'm just like sort of taken aback by the fact that like I just needed them to sit down desperately. Elonjuan is like, okay, sort of in the same way that we saw Lindsay's personality amplified with an absolute megaphone. I feel like we really got the same type of energy from Elonjuan, where it was just, obviously it's an uncomfortable situation. Obviously it's awkward. You don't know each other. You have no idea what to expect from the other person. You desperately want to make this work. Elonjuan is already fucking smitten with her. So he's like, this is my wifey and I'm going to tell you all the things that I could imagine you needing to know about me. He went off on the laundry list and it's like, slow your roll. Katina is like, my husband is a lot. He's got a lot of energy. You can see how much doubt and like, she's so uncertain about this match. So what was your take on it?
I kept saying, ask her a question.
That's triggering for me in like most states I've ever been on. Like, ask a question for Christ's sake.
It was all about Elonjuan. It was like, obviously he said she's beautiful umpteenth times. Like, okay, I get it. You're attracted to me. You would, there's no hesitation, when we make it to the bedroom later. I get it. But what about like, hey, Katina, like, do you have any pets? What do you do for work? What are your hobbies? Like, blah, blah, blah. There was no conversation. There was no growth in those moments because it was just Elonjuan rattling off, like, I'm a lot of energy. I just have a lot of energy. Like, very, very hyper.
We
like
can
a
tell.
puppy dog. Yes.
Yeah.
I felt like he was a little new puppy, and that's okay. But like, what we need to be able to manage our energy, because let's be real, anyone in their right mind, Katina's probably feeling the same way, but look at how it manifests for her. She's shutting down, she's quiet, she's more reserved. She's still probably dealing with the same internal state as Elonjuan is. It's just showing up differently. So being mindful and being able to read the room that you're in, and actually, guys, if you want a secret to making connections and friendships, people love talking about themselves. So ask them a question. That's the secret sauce.
They love sharing opinions too. If you want to like bring up a topic that invites someone to share a particular opinion on something. Ooh, people love that shit.
Yeah, so I was waiting for that and it never happened, and you could just see Katina shutting down because it was really overwhelming. It made her more nervous and she just kind of went down the tunnel of yeah, I mean the sciencey side of me wants to be like the the polyvagal ladder, but whatever.
I don't know what you mean by that, but I do know that like
yeah.
the lights in her world turned off.
We're
the electricity
shutting
went
down.
out.
Yeah, I'm just saying she was super dysregulated.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so she's in this like almost like fight, flight, or freeze, and she chose freeze.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't know if I'd label it as freeze or fawn. Well, yeah, no, I would label it as freeze because fawn gets more into kind of like what Elonjuan's doing is like more people pleasing, codependent type tendencies, whereas freeze, you're kind of like, I'm here, but I'm mentally checked out, or like I'm kind of self-numbing. I'm finding a way to kind of not be here.
Neutralize. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
I felt like Elonjuan was preparing for this moment for like the last however many years he chose to like start quote working on himself. So like I felt that he steamrolled the situation. He steamrolled the conversation.
Steamrolled it.
And he was also making up for the absence of input from Katina.
Yeah. Because, okay, again, and this is the other thing, because I have clients who really have a fear of awkward silences on dates, okay? So if that's you, because I really feel like that's Elonjuan here, is silence terrifies him because he's such a party animal that he thinks if someone isn't talking or if someone isn't dancing, something's wrong. Yeah. And so he fills the space. He takes up a lot of space. And so if that's you and something you resonate or relate to, I want to encourage you to get comfortable in silence, like learn how to get comfortable. And also, again, have like some canned questions in the back of your mind, like if you could have any superpower, what would you have? That might sound super childish. Guess what? It's so much fun to have a conversation with someone around that because you get to see what their priorities are in a weird way. Like for me, I want to be able to teleport because travel is something I haven't gotten to experience, right? Whereas Jordan wants to fly because he feels the experience of feeling weightless and feeling to be able to glide like a bird does would be really thrilling to him. So I'm learning a lot in this really what seems like a silly childish question about someone, right? I'm getting to know them on a different level. So, and you don't have to use that, but I'm just throwing an example out there.
Yeah, your message is like have some fallback questions to be able to access if you start to get nervous. If you do find that silence falls between the two of you, I challenge you to just sit with it and see how it makes you feel. Like, obviously you might feel uncomfortable, but sometimes like vibes between two people that are connecting quite well, silence doesn't always have to mean awkwardness. It can also allow for some sexy tension to build.
Yes. So. Like I have a girlfriend who her and her partner, she's like, we go on road trips, but we don't talk. We just listen to music. And that's
oh my God,
vibe.
That is like hot. That sounds so hot. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. So it's like whereas Jordan and we don't shut up. And I know you know that because you FaceTime with us, but we talk a lot about everything all the time, even when we go on road trips. So we also listen to audiobooks, but that's a story for another day.
Okay. Do you have anything else on this catastrophic pair?
No.
Cool. Me neither.
Let's move on.
Alyssa and Chris.
Girl.
You had something that you wanted to say about this. Are you changing your opinion about Alyssa?
No, I think she's a really interesting mix because I still stand by what I said last week. Like, she's very comfortable with herself. She, even with we saw a little bit more of the picky, I guess high maintenance is a way to describe it, but I don't really like that term when it's used to describe women. I think just like I think categorizing it more is she has a very particular taste and she knows what she wants.
There you go.
Is a better way to put it. Because I still, like, let's be real, she's a dog lover. She's down to earth in that way. She fosters pets to help them find their families. Like, she clearly is a very compassionate gal. And she very much is kind of falling into the stereotype of the little girl who's always dreamed of her wedding day and like knows what she wants and is not going to settle for less, and kind of his now in choice paralysis between her wedding gowns, because she admits, and she kind of self-deprecating in this moment where she's like, I bought 10 wedding dresses and brought them in addition to the actual fitting that
they provided.
The show was providing.
I did not catch that.
Oh yeah. So here was the first, so when she brought in the dresses and she told her consultant, like her bridal dress consultant, like, yeah, I brought some dresses to compare. And then later we find out it's 10 dresses to compare. I'm like, okay, so you may be a little bit of a control freak. We'll see. Like, you know, but what I really didn't like that is kind of concerning to me is how she made a comment about snaggletooth teeth. And if her person has teeth like that, she's going to be like, nope, it's not okay. And Chris has some crooked teeth. And
she's
so
wrong for that.
It's
she was wrong
concerning.
for that.
Yeah. And that to me is where I really started to get concerned, because it's like, the duality that I'm seeing in her, where she can be so down to earth and chill and laid back and she doesn't need to be the center of attention. But then seeing these other aspects come out, I'm a little like, I was caught off guard. Like, I literally have a note in my phone being like, whoa, did not see that coming.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Alyssa's giving me some mean girl vibes. I don't have enough evidence yet. That's why I've been hesitant to say it, but she gives me some mean girl vibes. But I'm ready, waiting, and willing to be proven wrong on that. I wanted to ask you a question that came from watching them and something that you just mentioned, which is her. Alyssa has been dreaming of her wedding since she was a little girl, which a lot of the other women have mentioned, and then I know that this is true for a lot of women in general, because we are socialized to see marriage as our ultimate measure
milestone.
of success. Yes, thank you. Exactly. It's our final frontier. But I wanted to ask you if you related to that, if you felt that way growing up. I'm just doing a poll.
Interesting question. No, I did not fantasize about my wedding day and what it would look like. I was way more concerned with falling in love and what that would feel like and having a partnership. Like, I have vivid memories even with my Barbie dolls, and it wasn't ever a wedding. It was always them like doing life together, like the stories I would make with my Barbie dolls. So yeah, no, I did not. And I will say, like, when I was getting married to Buddy and like I was starting to try and figure out what dresses, sure, I had a Pinterest board for that to like see what I liked.
Yeah, but that's different because
no.
you were fully planning a wedding.
Yeah, I was engaged but I started that before we were officially a thing, doing it. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers your question. What about you? Did you?
I fully relate to your experience. Honestly, like I have never fantasized about my wedding, even when I was younger. I still don't. Anytime I do this little thought exercise with myself, because while I fully know that it's absolutely okay for me, like there's nothing wrong with me that I don't fantasize about my wedding day in the same way that a lot of people that I know do. I do like to do like this little thought exercise where I like try on what that feels like. And I just can't even think about it. Like I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea what I would want. And so it just, all roads point to the wedding day not being that important to me. I feel similarly to you that I have always held a really high value to what the relationship would feel like. I've always fantasized about being in a relationship. That is never not been the case. I've never been one of those girls where I'm like, I don't really want a boyfriend. Like, I've always wanted a fucking boyfriend. Like always. Now, am I choosy about when that happens in my life? Absolutely. But have I always romanticized and again, placed high value on what it feels like to be in the type of relationship that I really want? 100%.
Yeah.
It was always about like, what is the quality of our marriage look like, rather than like, what does my dress look like, and what's the setting, and what are the colors, and what are the vibes?
Yeah, totally. So it was interesting with Alyssa, because I feel you when you're like, I'm getting some Mean Girl vibes. But what's strange is like last week when Lindsay was very much kind of coming after her and making straight up remarks that she's not a fan of hers, I was really frustrated with Lindsay. I'm like, that's not cool. I still don't think that's cool. But now I'm wondering, like, were there things that were said that were cut out on Alyssa's end that we didn't see that may have provoked Lindsay to kind of be further down that road? I don't know. I can't figure out if Alyssa's like question. The Elle Woods type, where she's like, she appreciates couture gowns and she, wants to look her best and all of that. Or is it Regina George? We don't know yet.
Good question. We're going to find out. Well, we'll find out as much as we do find out. My notes within this couple so far are actually more on Chris.
Okay, tell me what you've seen.
So he is data driven. Chris is Mr. Logistics. And I know people like this. I know men like this. I know women like this.
I'm kind of like this.
Yeah. And while I don't actually find being logistically focused to be a bad thing, because I find that can bring a lot of harmony to someone who's like a bit more like me, like very emotional and like in the clouds and like, I love the energy in this place. And someone needs to be like, bitch, look at the facts. Can we look at the facts? Can we look at the like known evidence here? I need that personally. But the data priority that I saw Chris sort of owning as he's talking about what he's hoping for as he like crosses this threshold into single, dumb, into married life it seemed like a tool to help him avoid getting hurt. Like, if I could just approach this in what I have deduced through trial and error from all of my past relationships as the right way to enter marriage, I need to do more of this and less of that, because my experience and the data has shown that is effective. I have significant results. That to me, and all of his buddies were like, dude, you gotta like just be in it.
Can't science your way out of everything.
Exactly. And I found it to be this, this tool to protect his heart. Yeah. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I know people that do this. They're like, everything that I've done has been wrong. In Chris's case, I've had a long history of serious relationships that never really went much further than like long-term dating. And this is the data that I am applying to make sure that I have the best chances of a successful marriage. What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean for you? Because it's different for everyone. Yeah. Elonjuan's version of a successful marriage is totally different than Chris's version of a successful marriage.
Elonjuan is just waiting to like hump his bride like a
puppy dog. Yeah. I think we've hit some gold here.
Yeah, I think so too.
So yeah, I relate to that so much, as far as, because that was me when I first started dipping into this work, is I hid behind the science of a lot of different tools and tactics, because of that was a safety net for me. Mm-hmm. And I get it. And I know just from doing the work on my own self, being in my own relationship, and also working with clients and seeing how their lives, transform and all of that. It's like I said, you can't science your way out of everything. You can't. And the importance of kind of acknowledging that, sure, statistics show this and statistics show that, so it might be a good idea if we approached it in this way. Absolutely. But the reality is that there's humans as a species, we have outliers, we have anomalies, we have people who have different preferences, we have so many different genders and orientations to identify as that the science take all of that into consideration. The answer is no, we haven't. We haven't done a lot of the science that has been done has been on heterosexual couples.
Yeah.
So show me some studies on some polyamorous people, please.
Yeah.
You know what
some
I mean?
queer people.
Yeah. And so it's just like, you know, I feel that I think it's great education to know and understand, I'm also kind of fascinated all the details of what Chris has leaned on science-wise, like what tactics he's leaned on. But, you know, no matter who you are, understand it, sure, embrace it, sure, implement parts of it, sure, and still allow yourself to be a human being and to experience things and to make mistakes and to not be stuck in almost paralyzed by, if I don't do it this way, I'm going to fail. Because guess what? The more you sit in that energy, you'll make it happen.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So poor guy. I didn't catch that. I was too focused on my shock from Melissa.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I'm here for you.
Thanks, girl.
I don't think that I got much else from them.
Yeah, we didn't get to see too much.
Well, because we haven't seen them approach their wedding yet. So we leave off with Stephen Noy just on, like, as they hit the climax of they're about to meet up. What we see up until that point is them getting ready in the same way that we've gotten to see everyone else. And we get to see a lot of Noy's emotional progress.
Yeah.
Maybe progress is the wrong word, but like her journey.
Sure. I mean, I put her freak out.
That's
freaking out.
Exactly what it is. She's freaking out. And yo, shout out to her bestie. Shout out to her bestie. Her bestie, like in those early moments, like those first early stages of her starting to get pretty emotional about it, her bestie handled it in a way that I want all besties in the room to recognize, which is that she looked at her, she validated her feelings, she checked in with her, she told her that she loved her, she grabbed her hand, and she joined her emotionally in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that was really wonderful. But then we continue to see Noy, her nerves build, and it seemed like she was really struggling to emotionally regulate. She really needed to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think?
I completely agree. Yeah. She, you can tell she's just having a lot of dual experiences and emotions come up. Like on the one hand, she's super excited and she's ready for it. Like you can tell that. And then as the day gets closer and closer to her walking down the aisle, she starts to freak out about the thought of seeing him for the first time and what's that going to be like. And like, also she shares concerns or her hope that she has a marriage like her father and mother. You know, her mom's getting ready and she looks behind her and tells her like, I really want something like what you and dad have because you've been through so much together and you've stayed committed to each other through it all. And that's something that I really want. And so for us as viewers, I'm over here like, relax, Noy, this guy's great. You're going to love him. Like, I really am excited for these people. Yeah. And she doesn't know that, nor do her bridesmaids. And so it's understandable in so many ways why she'd be tripping, just like Katina, just like all the other gals we've seen. Meanwhile,
quick correction. Katina was the most confident one leading into all of their weddings, maybe except for Lindsay, because Lindsay was drunk. But Jasmina...
Yeah, freaking out in her own way.
Jasmina was freaking out.
She was very similar to Noi, like very similar concerns. And so I do feel like when Noi sees Steve, she's going to be able to breathe a little bit more. It's kind of like going on a scary roller coaster for the first time, except this one's a lifelong commitment. So maybe not. But
it's a bit of an intense roller coaster.
Yeah, like, but that kind of build out, like, or build up is what I'm trying to, like, the anxiety of the unknown, of like what lies ahead. What is this experience going to be like?
Exactly.
Whereas in contrast, Steve seems super grounded and is like, he seems okay.
Well, and I wonder if, okay, a couple things. The relevance and familiarity with arranged marriages in his family history, which allows him to take away some of the mystery and risk away from it, right? Or like out of it. We also know about Steve is that he, at least more recently in his life, is used to making big life changes, taking big risks. Obviously, him losing his job was not his choice, but he did choose to take a hiatus from looking for employment for a while he went to go travel and went to go backpack and do all of his things and live like a nomad. That takes someone who has to, if he wasn't comfortable with big risks before, that period of his life or that experience has allowed him to be more familiar and more comfortable with it. So I wonder if that applies here.
Totally. Could be. Yeah. He seems like just a really calm dude.
Yeah.
At least from what we've seen so far. So I'm really, I cannot wait for next week's episode just to see these two meet. Like I feel like a child sitting on the edge of my seat. Like, yay.
I cannot wait for next week's episode to see them meet, to see them get married, and to have more opportunities to get familiar with Steve's brother, because he is capital F fine. Capital F fine. That man is fine.
I missed it. Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to
watch it back.
Look.
He is fire flames. Okay. He's fire flames. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Very similar shirt you got going on. That's maybe honestly, why you wore it.
My body is getting hot right now. my body temperature. He's
Bri.
There's like a short list of people that do that to me, and Steve's brother, who's incredibly married, and I'm not going to go find him. I'm going to go slide on the DMs.
You looked at the ring finger? Is that how you
know? I wouldn't put it past me, because I do be looking for ring fingers.
She's on the episode.
Rings on fingers. No, Steve mentions, I'm the last of my siblings to get married.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Word.
So I just know it.
Word. Yes, that's true. He did say that.
I'd be looking.
I love it. Okay. So what's your red flag of the week?
Oh God, there's so many. There's so many to choose from. My red flag of the week is in the dynamic of Elonjuan and Katina.
Mm-hmm.
While I fully can give Elonjuan the responsibility that he is the one that's sort of setting up the scene to make it hard for Katina to be engaged and present in this moment and like give this man a chance. Like that's all his energy's doing. But I think my red flag is with Katina. In her response to it. Like, I understand that this is a stressful situation, but I think that if I had to coach her, I'd give her just a little pep talk to be like, listen, like, do something that allows him to like break the tension a little bit. Like help both of you out. Give him a little bit of space to just, I don't know, loosen up, relax a little. Help him with that if you can.
Yeah.
It's yours.
My red flag is in Alyssa. Honestly, if I'm being super honest, I'm concerned at the amount of priorities she's putting on his teeth being straight and control over
everything.
Control over everything. It makes me really anxious about how this is not the kind of show to go on if you're a control freak. Like
very good point.
you date and you marry the normal quote unquote way. If you're going to be that picky and set in your ways. So I'm interested to see if this causes her to grow and learn how to like take her foot off, you know, the gas and loosen it up a bit. Is it going to make her
so uncomfortable that she has an absolute freak out?
I feel like that might be the case, what you just said. But my hope is that it's the other.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Green flag.
Yeah. Green flag. You go first.
My green flag is when Jasmina's reflecting on the spark that she's feeling. She mentions that there's a little spark, not a big giant spark, not an overpowering spark. And I think to the untrained ear, that would actually suggest that she's not feeling it, or she's downplaying how much she could be feeling in this moment, because we obviously all saw that this was like a vibe.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing and what I'm choosing to hear in this moment is a healthy level of attraction and facilitated connection. And that is, we talk about this a lot now in a series of the show, which is that looking for a healthier dynamic, a healthier love, a healthier connection is going to feel different in your body. It's not going to be this overpowering, I'm obsessed, I can't get enough of them feeling. It's going to come in little waves of, oh, that's piquing my interest. I like that. And honestly, sometimes nothing more than that. What about you?
Totally. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I forgot to say that. That was my thing. Like last night I was like, yes, I called it, because I had a feeling she was going to feel that way. And I'm really glad, like, as far as it being like, there's something there, but I'm not, quite sure yet. It's not this explosive, like, in comparison to Elonjuan, who's like tripping over his attraction about his new wifey. So yeah, I felt really like stoked that she could recognize that. I was so proud of her for being like, that's not a negative thing. Like so happy and so proud that she's that aware, because Michael's so aware. So I love it.
Yep.
Okay. My green flag. Let me think. Well, actually, it's going to be what you said about Noi and her friend in that moment, of her friend comforting her and validating her, because, and you'll see, and this kind of, I alluded to this last week with Mark's buddy, his groomsman, when he was like, you're allowed to be nervous,
Yeah.
I think that toxic positivity is a thing that we have now, it's become a habit. And what that looks like, for example, in this situation, if Noi is sharing her fears, like her friend coming at her being like, but it's your wedding day, like you should be happy. And like, for all this could be the love of your life. And like not letting her feel her feelings is what so many people in the moment would reach for instead, thinking they're being a good friend because they're just trying to cheer her up. But what it does is it actually fuels those feelings even more, because you're not allowing yourself to process them and explore them.
Yep.
So her friend doing that and allowing her to feel and not dismissing her is such a green flag of a friend.
Yeah.
So good.
Glad you brought that out. Shout out to Bestie.
Yeah. Bestie, we don't know your name, but you go, girl.
You go, girl.
You go, Glen Coco.
Okay, so that's our MAFS recap, our MAFS continued compatibility assessment. And now we have a social media question.
Yeah, so I pulled this off my TikTok, and as Bri and I were looking for a question to answer this week, we felt that this is something that a lot of people struggle with, so we wanted to unpack it for you. And this came from, like I said, my TikTok. This person just was curious, how do we control jealousy and possessiveness? And that was basically their question. In ourselves, yeah.
Not in your partner.
And not in your partner, because you can't control your partner at all. So,
yep.
So let's talk about it. Controlling jealousy and insecure or possessiveness. What are your thoughts?
It's so hard for me to approach this outside of the framework of a clinician. So I'm just going to run with, I'm just going to run
Do
with
it.
what feels natural to me professionally with this is in order to tackle any sort of behavior or honestly, this is an emotional response. Sometimes a trauma response. The only way to divide and conquer and figure out how to eliminate this or decrease its frequency and minimize its overall impact on your emotional and mental well-being is to first acknowledge and notice how it shows up in your life and what does it look like for you. So I tend to get jealous when something like XYZ happens. It shows up in me in XYZ ways. I yell, I shut down, I avoid, I blame, like I challenge you to objectively examine how does it show up and how does it get triggered for your own information.
Yeah.
You want to bounce off that?
I completely agree. Yeah. And I think we need to, first of all, like, no, I may, this makes me laugh. Sometimes when people ask me this question, I say, let's give ourselves some grace because we're animals and our ego is what gets in the way of us feeling territorial over a person, right? We're like dogs. We like to mark our territory, you know?
Yeah.
And so let's understand that that's a natural response, you know, I think what you said is really important is being mindful of what is triggering the jealousy and the want to be possessive. Yeah. Is it your partner is, you know, texting someone or working with someone that you feel threatened by? Is that a thing? You know, does that cause you to lurk their social media? That's something that comes up a lot when people are wanting to be possessive. Or does it cause you to want to demand them to be in constant contact as a way for you to self-soothe? That's another one that I see a lot. And so really what this is shedding light on, it's a reflection of you and a feeling of insecurity. Now, I feel like what's really important to add to this is once you've done what Bri and I just discussed as far as checking yourself, identifying what your triggers are and how it causes you to feel internally and act externally, the next step is to ask yourself if, again, there's two things that could be happening. One, it's a reflection of you and the abandonment wounds or insecurities, whatever that you have. Or two, is your partner actually doing something to make you feel that way? Because that does unfortunately happen sometime. I have dated a guy who's made me feel jealous purposefully to get the emotional reaction out of me. Yeah. And if that is you and you can go through the steps that Bri and I ironed out and you realize like it's kind of dangled in my face or it's discussed in a way that, you know, makes me feel uncomfortable. For example, making a sarcastic joke about, oh, I had a crazy night out on the town and met a bunch of hot ladies. Like, let's say, you know, if Jordan would never do that, but if that were to happen and they're kind of trying to make this sarcastic joke around, and essentially imply like I was flirting with other people or I potentially, and then I'm like, oh, well, that makes me uncomfortable. And then they come at me and they're like, I was just joking around. Not okay. That's not a funny joke for people to make. Yeah. So I'm trying to throw out an example, but hopefully that lands.
And I think when you are able to identify that those are the behaviors that make you feel possessive, jealous, insert feeling word there. Yep. Opening that conversation is going to include pointing out the behavior that you've now noticed and using I statements to help your partner understand what that experience is like for you. So it could sound like flirting with other people at the bar and then telling me about it makes me feel like what? You know what I mean? So like we want to be really careful not to just be blaming your partner.
Yes.
And even over assuming why it is they do what they do, because you're going to trigger defensiveness on their side.
Totally.
And if they're defensive, their ears are going to be shut down. Then you're going to get defensive. Then you're going to shut down, and both of you are going to get gridlocked into your own perspective and your own position on equal sides of the argument. You want to facilitate an open conversation where you're both actively listening and actively trying to hear each other.
Yes.
Using I statements to describe how something makes you feel is much more difficult to argue than saying, you do this because you're trying to hurt me. If that's not the case, then that's going to make someone take on, honestly, it's going to lead to a totally different conversation.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And even asking that question, like, let's say this happens more than once and it's like, hey, I've noticed that after you have a night out with your guy friends that you make a comment like this or something. And I'm just curious, what are you aiming for when you share that with me? Are you...
Yes.
And allow them to fill the space, because it's like, it really could be something as them seeking reassurance from you. They're just going about it in a really shitty way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course there's always the option of someone just likes being a dick, but assuming that's not the case. And if it is the case, get out of that relationship.
Yeah.
But assuming that's not the case, approaching your partner with curiosity and compassion and being like, look, this is what I've noticed. It makes me feel this kind of way. And I just kind of want to understand you better. Like, what do you think prompts that?
Yeah.
Is a great way to, again, one, healthy communication, but two, you develop more emotional intimacy and trust when you approach conflict that way.
Yeah, totally. I want to normalize that all of us, every single one of us, goes into our next relationships, our current relationships with insecurities. There is not a single person on this planet that is the exception to the rule that we all carry insecurities with us. And it is not important that you become this extremely confident version of yourself so that you can protect yourself from feeling ever insecure or jealous or feel like you are being emotionally tested. There are things that we feel bad about, and that is normal. It is not normal to expect that our partners have to change everything about their behavior to make us feel better. So what I challenge people to do here, and myself, is to get familiar with the specific insecurities that you carry around with you as you navigate the world, and be bold and brave enough to share that with your partner. Hopefully it's someone that you trust, because if you are involved with someone who is manipulative, narcissistic, they will use this against you.
100%.
So assuming that this is someone that you trust, that you have like a healthy, safe relationship with, being able to let them know what makes you feel and what you are insecure about can lead to a conversation where you are both exploring what ways make you feel seen. What signs of love, what acts of love allow you to feel secure, so that the other areas of your life that typically make you a little jealous or typically trigger that heightened emotional response in you actually may not have that same effect, because you get love and you get validation and you are reassured and seen and felt and hugged and known in all of these other ways that you can remind yourself as evidence of this person's commitment to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you edit
Crushed
that?
it.
Ah, sick.
No, you
out of
killed
the
it.
Park.
Out of the freaking park. It's gone.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
No idea.
Home run, baby.
So that's it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Sending you lots of love.
Listen, if you're insecure about how much we love you, you don't need to be. We love you so much. And we will tell you all the time.
We will.
Next episode, we're going to focus on the third episode of Married at First Sight. We're going to see Steve and Noy's initial introduction to each other. We're going to see Alyssa and Chris's introduction to each other. So if you're watching the show, it airs on Wednesday nights on Lifetime. Please watch this with us. Or you can also watch it on Hulu, usually like the next day. To add to some of our conversations, please write into our website. You can ask anonymously. We will answer anonymously. You want to head to www.ditchthescriptpod.com to submit your questions. You can also reach us on our Instagram or TikTok at ditchthescriptpod. And please rate, review, subscribe, share on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We upload our episodes to YouTube as well. Show the love, share the love, because we love you.
We're not trying to make this a transactional relationship, though,
but we will if we have to.
But like, help us grow and also spread the amazing knowledge and vibe.
Yeah. I really do believe that these conversations have a ripple effect. And like, we are all just trying to make our interactions with each other healthier, more safe for everyone involved, so that we can focus on the other things that living in this wonderful life has to offer. That isn't just like, oh my God, why isn't he texting me back?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So that's it. We're going to tell you one more time. Love you.
Love you. Bye.